We welcome you here, rising together. There is a place. We believe this is the place. We shall build and maintain. We are on board. Greater Bridgeport NAACP Education Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Joanne Kennedy. Just give us 1 second. Online has had a small issue with hearing audio. It's been resolved. Go ahead, Ms. Kennedy.
Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. I am here in support of Mrs. Levy David about the decision that she made in reference to the use of the amphitheater. She followed the policy. She explained why, because of the uptick in COVID. She's allowed to make that decision, which is under $25,000. Okay, the students, the staff, the community attending, including myself, enjoyed the convocation thoroughly. The question was asked to me when I interviewed for a position on the board. The question was asked to me, how would you ensure a good working relationship with the board and the superintendent? Now let me turn around and ask you that. How would you ensure a good working relationship with the board and the superintendent? You're the board. She's the superintendent, obviously. How are you going to do that? Okay? How are you going to do that? Not by attacking her, not by micromanaging her, or being disrespectful. Because I hear the tone. Keep that same energy when you're talking to me. Because we have her back. The community has her back. You will not disrespect her. That's what you're not going to do. She is highly educated. She's a person that we've been looking for a long time. She's come here. She's intelligent. She's the smartest person in the room. You will respect her as such. The community is watching you and how you treat her. She is amazing. You will treat her right. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes public comment. At this moment, we'll move into approval of meeting minutes. We have quite a few approvals that need to take place tonight. The first one is regular board meeting for June 12th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Allen. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Baptiste Perez abstained. Mr. Sokolovic abstains. Ms. Perez abstains. Motion carries. The next one is special meeting, April 28th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Second by, I'm going to give that to Mr. Traber. I did see him. Mr. Traber seconds it. Are there any corrections or updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Stay.
Mr. Sokolovic and Ms. Perez abstains. Ms. Baptiste Perez abstains. Special meeting, June 15, 2023. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Are there any corrections, updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Baptiste Perez and Ms. Perez abstains. Mr. Sokolovic abstains. The next one is special meeting for July 6, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Mr. Traber? I'm going to give it to Mr. Traber. Are there any corrections or updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Sokolovic, Ms. Baptiste Perez, and Ms. Perez abstains. Special meeting for July 13th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Did I hear a second? Okay, I'm gonna give it to Ms. Allen. seconded by Ms. Allen. Are there any corrections, updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Sokolovic, Ms. Perez, and Ms. Baptiste Perez abstains. Special meeting July 27, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. There's second. Second by second by Ms. Allen. Are there any corrections and updates? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Baptiste Perez and Ms. Perez abstains. Special meeting August 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? I'll give it to Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Perez abstains and Ms. Baptiste Perez abstains. Then, sorry, can you please mute? Thank you. No. I have asked. Yeah, he's doing it. Or can you turn down your volume, sir? Just give us 1 second. Thank you, no worries. Special meeting for August 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Allen. Are there any corrections and updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Perez and Ms. Baptiste Perez abstains. Special meeting August 7th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Benahan. Are there any corrections and updates needed? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Perez and Ms. Baptiste Perez abstains. Now we'll move on to the chairman's report. For our chairman's report, I just would like to report out to the board and to the community. The final phase for the superintendent search firm will begin on September 6th at 6 p.m. That will take place, I believe we set for Central High School. This particular meeting will share where the group will update their expectations of the superintendent and the superintendent's expectations. An agenda will be posted with outlining that specific meeting. That is the final phase of the superintendent search. The next meeting will be, there will be board training with Bertram and Moses. Bertram and Moses is our legal representation. We'll do a training on the board's rights as serving board members, and then also how does the superintendent engage with legal as well. That meeting will take place on September 27th at 6 p.m. We are just waiting on location to be identified. The next will be board training with CABE. CABE is an organization that we are connected with to be able to help us outline the duties and responsibilities of board members and chair, as well as the superintendent. That meeting will take place on Saturday, September 30th at 6 p.m. Location is being determined. This meeting will address the board etiquette and also survey of the board. This allows board members to see their overall function as a unit in order to better serve Bridgeport Public Schools. All committee chairs have received communication on being mindful of agenda items being focused on agendas, and then mindful of times in which meetings are held so that individual community members and staff are not left at a late meeting. So committee chairs have been addressed, and we'll take heed to the announcement. I'm going to share part of my share part of my committee report to Mr. Benahan. On 8/17, we attended the school building committee, and I asked him to share an update. This will also be addressed in the facilities meeting that's oncoming. So Mr. Benahan, can you do that shortly, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Be part of the building committee. We have an amazing meeting with city councils and me as a board member, and we have the chair, Ms. Bobby Brown. And the next meeting, Dr. Carmela is going to be enjoying with us. We were talking especially about the new Bassett High School. They're in process. Sometimes you see a lot of construction, and people ask when. Well, they say maybe in 2 years we're gonna have basic done. That's for now. That's not concrete yet. But so far, they do an amazing job. It's to take time. Remember, it's a policy, it's a protocol. They have a process, with construction and stuff like that. But the board exactly and everyone be in part, and we know that BAS is going to be new for the students. Also, they planning to have a new meeting to let them know the community. We don't know yet the date and the time. So let them know a process. Anybody have a question for the community? How's the BAS is going to be done? Where? How? When? A lot of people ask questions. So far, that's all I have for now. In the next board education meeting, I will let you know more details. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I also wanted to share, and I wanted to address the board, that this is our first school meeting of the year, and I would like to welcome Dr. Levy David to the district and her first Board of Education meeting, official Board of Education meeting. I would also like to welcome the 9th and kindergarten students back into the school year. Today, we had an opportunity to visit Bassick High School freshmen as well as the building and facilities, so that was a very promising view of the school, and also getting a chance to talk to the different students. So I thought that was very impactful. There will be other school tours that Dr. Levy will be sharing. I've also shared those dates with board members. If you are available to attend, please add it to your calendar and attend. Dr. Levy, obviously in your report, she'll share more on what that looks like. I also want to address that as we are moving forward as a board, there will be an opportunity for each and every one of us to behave as adults. This meeting is our first meeting. This is our first superintendent that we've had this year. And I'm asking that each of you, as we conduct business today and for the future, that we speak to each other with respect, but that we also hold each other accountable, and that we also maintain quorum as we're meeting here. I also ask that each board member, you will be called on when it is your time to speak. You will speak once you are called on. I also ask that there is no talking over one another. We are adults, children are watching, and our students will be participating in the future at our meetings. I ask that you conduct yourselves with professionalism as we continue to move forward. I do not expect us to behave like we are not adults. That goes across the board. So I ask each of you to do that. I also want to acknowledge the fact that prior to Dr. Levy coming, we have been in communication. If anything, form of communication via text message, via email, or phone call. When Dr. Levy arrived, I met with her and we decided that we would have each and every opportunity for board members to meet with her prior to our first meeting. That meeting did take place for those board members that were currently seated. And since then, we have communicated via email, via text, or phone call. When we met, I made sure that board members had the opportunity to meet with her first, because I had already been in communication with her prior to. This way, you all had an opportunity to talk with her. At that meeting on, at that meeting on August 12th, we addressed the dynamics of the board. We also addressed board members' angst. Those that I am aware of was addressed. Dr. Levy spoke on the importance of board quorum and being able to talk to one another and get an idea of the board that she will currently be working with. So I just wanted to make sure it was said that there wasn't any communication, and I wanted to address that in front of everyone, that there has been communication. Can there be more? Yes. But what I will say is that the board members did receive an email stating that Dr. Levy and I will be meeting bi-weekly. Those have been scheduled out for the months to come. Those meetings are strictly for agenda items. It is unfair that central staff has a hard time putting together needed items to complete meetings for this specific regular board meeting. Those meetings are standing meetings with Dr. Levy and myself as we build our agenda. From there, we will meet as needed by the week, phone call, text message, whatever the case may be, we will do that. But I want to create a system in which her staff is not ruffling and trying to figure out what is the next item for the agenda. Lastly, just want to make it clear also that while meeting, we will address any up and coming items that may come before the board, as to why committee chairs have been made aware of when their items are due, and make sure they reach out to Miss Rita and her staff and the rest of the remaining of the staff to be able to gather all those items. This was also done with the interim prior to. I believe that the superintendent has a superintendent's job. It's not my job to be on top of her every single step of the way, but it is my job to make sure that the board's items are put first, that everything is prepared and outlined. So that is my chairman's report, and I ask that we continue to conduct ourselves professionally as we do business of the Bridgeport Public Schools.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Mr.
just forgot to ask you in the beginning, point of privilege for a second.
Sure.
I just want to give it 1 minute of silence because I know we have family from Hawaii. We got parents, we got family here in Bridgeport School, and we all know what's going on, what happened in Hawaii. And I really meet with two family last week. And I just want to give it 1 minute silence because of the family I meet. They really lost family over there in Hawaii. So I'll have a 1 minute silence for the family, please.
We'll take a moment of silence for those affected by the fires in Hawaii. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
At this moment, we'll move into committee reports and referrals. The first committee is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That is chaired by Mrs. Sokolovic. Before you give your report, I just want to remind those that are listening and those that are presently here, all committees have been posted, the dates and times of when those committees meet. The public is encouraged to attend. There isn't a opportunity for you to speak during that meeting. However, you are welcome to attend. Most of these committee meetings do take place at Central High School unless otherwise at another location. Mr. Sokolovic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. The Diversity and Equity Inclusion Committee did not meet over the summer. But in the interim, 2 bids were received for a new and are currently being reviewed for recommendation to the board for a new diversity, equity, inclusion professional development provider. And the next DEI meeting will occur on its regularly scheduled date and time, the 3rd Monday of every month at 6 p.m. This month's meeting, so actually September's meeting, will take place at 6 p.m. at Central Library and via Teams.
Are there any referrals to this committee? Are there any referrals to this committee? Are there any referrals to this committee? Hearing none, the next committee is Finance, and that's also chaired by Mr. Sokolovic.
The Finance Committee met on this past Wednesday, and a review was made of the amphitheater purchase used for convocation. We also received updates and information concerning the budget timeline for the 24-25 school year, ESSA fund expenditures and balances, and a preliminary forecast for the end of fiscal year 23. The next Finance Committee meeting will occur on its regularly scheduled day and time, which is the 2nd Wednesday of each month. This next month's meeting will take place at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 13th, 2023 at Central Library and via Teams.
Are there any referrals to this committee? Are there any referrals to this committee? Yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, I would like to refer about you investigate, and I spoke to you in the last meeting about the COVID-19, all the equipment, all the money it was spent, because I know it's thousands of dollars in different schools and everything is expiring. So that's money thrown in the garbage.
So you want to update on the inventory?
Yes, please.
Inventory updates. I got that. Oh, one more thing I neglected to mention, I apologize, is that we have received not bids, but the RFP has been completed by staff, and it's been reviewed by legal, and it's ready to be presented probably at the next regular board meeting.
Thank you. The next committee is Governance, also chaired by Mrs. Sokolovic.
Again, the Governance Committee did not meet over the summer. Work continues on the school moving decommissioning policy via the work group, and hopefully the work group will meet before the next scheduled governance meeting, which will take place at its regularly scheduled time, the 3rd Wednesday at 6 p.m., which is September 20th, 2023, and it will take place at Central Library and via Teams. I reached out to the superintendent today to try to schedule a meeting for the group meeting so we could get an update and work on the policy a little more before presenting it and for any things needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any referrals to this committee? Are there any referrals to this committee? Are there any referrals to this committee? Hearing none, the next committee is Health, Safeties, and Facilities Committee, chaired by Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Health, safety, and facilities did not meet over the summer. Our next meeting, and we will follow the schedules, the second Tuesday in September, which is September 12th at 6:30 p.m. Part of what I like to do as a board member is have my facilities committee meeting at different facilities. So the location is to be determined. Hopefully, Mr. Garcia, Hardin High School is available, so that way I can have my meeting across town, so that way it's more accessible to different parents in different times. The agenda was just submitted, so it should be posted soon, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Are there any referrals to this committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sokolovic.
I've got 2 referrals. There was something brought to my attention by a community member regarding the rehabilitation of Winthrop and integrating Skane School into Winthrop. I would like to get ahead of that and find out what's going on, because apparently they're getting ready to bond for it already, and we have yet to hear a word about it. So I think we need to get ahead of that, because it's going to be 2 schools merging again. And as we've learned with the Bassick BMA merger, when the community is not involved early, it becomes problematic. So I would like to have a presentation on that, and maybe further discussion on setting up a community forum for the community, both the Skane and the Winthrop community, before we move forward with any on that. And my second referral has to do with the spike in COVID and RSV that's causing havoc in the city and making decisions. I'd like an update from Health and Safety from maybe a nurse or whoever will be appointed to do so. What we're doing in our schools to alleviate this issue. Are we still holding full auditoriums? Are we spacing out further? Or what kind of mitigation strategies are we using for this resurgence of the COVID virus?
No problem. Those 2 items are already broken down actually into 3 in the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other referrals to this committee? And I'll say it one more time. Are there any other referrals to this committee? All right, hearing none is Personnel and Contracts. Personnel and Contracts has met throughout the summer. One of those items are currently on the agenda. Actually, 2 of those items are actually currently on the agenda for approval this evening. We also met to review personnel matters as far as reviewing the organizational chart that was presented at our previous meeting. And then as the future goes, we'll continue to see more updates coming from Personnel and Contracts. Personnel and Contracts next meeting will be as it is on the schedule. The next meeting is the last Tuesday of September. The last Tuesday of September is the 26th, and it will be at 6 p.m. And it will be at Central High School. Are there any referrals to this committee?
Yes, I've got 2 referrals, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to refer the possibility of issuing an RFP for some combined Board of Education expenses, so we could go out to bid, perhaps combining convocation and graduations to one facility, and maybe we could get a better deal for our tax dollars, because combined right now it's approximately $74,000 a year, and maybe we could get that number lower, so we are facing an upcoming fiscal cliff, so the more we could save for our students, the better.
Are there any other referrals?
Oh, sorry, I got one more.
Go ahead.
We've referred this and began working on this before. We'd like to create a calendar for all contracts over $25,000 that are ready to expire. I don't want us to keep getting into the position where we're under fire and signing contracts without them being properly vetted.
Thank you. Are there any other referrals for Personnel and Contracts? Are there any other referrals for Personnel and Contracts? One last time, are there any other referrals to Personnel and Contracts? Mr. Traber?
Question.
Please use your mic, sir.
Point of information, Madam Chair. Are we going to get a report on the new procedure or protocol that was being developed with regard to the eye care and vision, and I forget what the other policy that was presented to us in the last few months, where we asked that we be told ahead of time, and we never saw the sort of final procedure or protocol? So did that go to your committee or to the full board?
I believe that will go through my committee because it is dealing with contracts. What I can do to the superintendent is that we connect with Mr. Ulysses on that. That was a project prior to your arrival of what we discussed. So I will reach out to superintendent to see the update on that with Mr. Ulysses. Thank you. Was your hand raised, Mr. Benahan?
No.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, sorry. The next committee is Students and Families, chaired by Mr. Benahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next student and family, we're going to be September 14, 2023. It's going to be in Strenta High School and Library.
Are there any referrals to this committee? Sorry. Are there any referrals to this committee? I actually have one. Before the summer break arrived, we were discussing the PAC bylaws. Was it the PAC bylaws? We still haven't gotten a report on that. So I would like to have a report on that and to see where that is and when is the finalization of it for parents.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Again, are there any other referrals? Hearing none, the next committee is Teaching and Learning. That is chaired by Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Teaching and Learning didn't meet in the interim. The meeting will be scheduled the third Tuesday of each month. So that will be September 19th at 6 p.m. The location is to be determined. Just like with facilities, I like to have it at multiple locations, not just at 2 different buildings.
Are there any referrals to Teaching and Learning?
I got one. If you recall, we had prior conversations about school start times for the high schools being later, and we put it on pause while we searched for a new permanent superintendent, and now we got one. I think maybe we should start exploring that again, the later school start times, and I think we probably got to start from scratch.
Are there any other referrals? Are there any other referrals? Hearing none, those are all the committee reports. You know who your committee chairs are. Again, community, we invite you to attend those meetings so that you can be able to hear what's going on. What we do is at our committee meetings, items that are approved by that committee are brought before the full board, and the full board will approve or either not approve those committee items. And they're also on YouTube and on our website.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Benahan.
Thank you. I know Ms. Baptiste said her committee is going to be September 12th on Harding High School. We are not going to have no issue because it's the primary day, the voting that day in the schools. So I just want to know, we're not going to have no issues. I'm just saying. It's going to be, because it's a primary, September 12th until 8 o'clock at night. So I don't know.
Well, it's to be determined, and I had suggested Hardin, so it has not been determined yet. So I'll leave it to Mr. Garcia to finalize, and we'll come up with an option to release to the public.
Okay. Thank you. Just want to leave that for the record. No more comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this moment, we'll have our superintendent's report. I ask that board members save your comments and questions till after her report is finished. Dr. Levy, you have the floor. Excuse me, Dr. Levy, David, you have the floor.
Is my mic on? Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's been a tremendous 4 weeks, 28 days approximately since I arrived, and I can tell you that the conversations, the warm welcomes, the incredible reception that I've received from this community has been truly heartwarming, and I'm very thankful for the time, the contacts, and the conversations, and especially for the time that I've been able to spend with our students who are incredibly authentic and unfiltered in their feedback regarding how they feel about our district and what they expect from us. This report encompasses the first 28 days that I've been on the job. I have shared a separate presentation with the board that just included a lot of the different activities that I've engaged in over the last 28 days. This one's a little bit different because I wanted to make sure that you had critical data that I promised at the end of that report, as well as addressing some questions that arised after my arrival. So I'd like to go ahead and begin that process if my computer will work. There we are. So, as you know, we held a wonderful and well-attended convocation in the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater on August 21st. It was a tremendous labor of love from a lot of personnel teams all over our district who collaborated and came together to pull off what I thought was a spectacular event in record time. And I think that the majority of people who were there enjoyed it. We had an exit survey, and I believe we had 93% exceeds for the reaction that we received from staff who attended. So we were really happy to be able to provide an opportunity for everyone to gather, to get together. It was the first time since COVID that we've been able to do that. It was very important to be able to do it in a place that was open air and safe, since we are having a resurgence of the COVID pandemic, and we wanted to be mindful that we were not putting individuals at risk. And it was also really important that we had our students there so they could showcase their talents, their incredible talents, and they could also see their teachers, see our custodians, see our cafeteria workers, see our bus drivers, see our facilities, our maintainers, all of the different individuals who collaborate to making Bridgeport successful, really and truly celebrating the fact that we all love education and that we're building a brand new legacy of what it means to be a member of Bridgeport Public Schools and what it means to be a student in Bridgeport Public Schools. So it was a tremendous event, and I was just really gratified by seeing that everybody had a good time. I had a good time. I even danced a little. So that was a great experience. I also wanted to share with you some of our enrollment numbers so far. As of today, effective today, we have 854 students enrolled in pre-kindergarten. That's up 34 students from this time last year. So I'm very gratified to see that we have students enrolling and that we have parents who are prioritizing early learning. And we're going to continue to encourage all of our parents to register and bring their babies. We will take care of them. It is not too late to enroll. So please continue to bring the children to Bridgeport Public Schools, and we will take very good care of them for you. Additionally, I wanted to give you an update on and this number is actually, the title on this slide is wrong. This is total enrollment, not magnet enrollment. This is total enrollment as of today, and that total enrollment is 19,264 students. And that's up 122 students from last year. And that's also exciting. We're seeing a great deal of interest in students coming back to our district. And that's what we want to do, attract students back to Bridgeport, let them know they're going to receive a quality education in Bridgeport Public Schools, and that we're extremely dedicated to listening to their needs and meeting those needs. And we're going to continue to engage with our students. We had a fantastic day today, as our board chair mentioned, both at Harding High School, meeting with our freshmen, and also welcoming our students at Bassick High School and engaging with them and talking to them and their parents about what they expect out of a 21st century education. And I held my breath a little bit, waiting to see what they would respond, thinking it was going to have something to do with tech, because my daughter is very engaged in tech. But actually, what they said to me was that they really wanted teachers who were more linguistically diverse, and teachers who would listen to their needs and address their needs and their individual unique characteristics. They really wanted to make sure that their particular individual needs were being met. And they also very specifically shared that they wanted to be able to feel safe in our schools. And so I asked follow-up questions, what do you mean by safety? And they specifically said that they wanted to be free from being harassed online, picked on for their clothes, talked to in a way that was disrespectful or rude, not bullied, and they wanted to be able to feel safe in being who they were at school and to have teachers and staff who supported their individuality and to help them with conflict resolution. These were freshmen sharing these ideas. And I was so impressed that they were so able to articulate their needs so specifically. And it was really beautiful to be able to have our mayor and also have our chief of police present to listen to them. And I want to thank both Principal Vernon Johnson and Principal Ariola for providing a setting for us to have those conversations with our students. Following that particular meeting, we went out. We took students out to the new construction site of where Bassett will open, hopefully on August of 2025. And we asked them to talk a little bit about what it would be like, what could it look like to have a high school right next to a university. And their answers were excitement. They were so excited about the premise of being next door to a university. And we had a student there who is a graduate of Bassett High School and now is on a full scholarship playing soccer at Bridgeport U. And he was able to talk about his experience being a student in Bridgeport schools. And so it was a very rewarding morning for all of us. I'm sure that Madam Chair will agree. And our students were spectacular. So please bring your students to Bridgeport. We're doing great things. So the enrollment that you're looking at, and these are my errors. I'm the one that did the typos, so I can't blame anybody for those, and nor would I do that. The enrollment that you're looking at is our total magnet program enrollment for the district as of today. We have 4,088 students, and that's an increase of 66 students from last year. I did not include Central Magnet in this count. I included only the other internal and external magnet programs that not only recruit students from other districts, but also have students from Bridgeport Public Schools. I plan to provide the board with a more detailed breakdown of what that enrollment looks like across all of our campuses at a later date. But I wanted to know that initially, we are increasing our magnet enrollment across the district, which is very exciting. I also wanted to provide our board with an update on our teacher vacancies. I want to thank Denise Alter-Dixon, our Director of Human Resources, and all of our amazing teachers on assignment who have been recruiting teachers across the state and across the country. We have a grand total of 67 vacancies. That's 17 vacancies less than we had last year at this time. And again, we're working really hard to ensure that there is a qualified, certified teacher in front of every single student on day one. And we're continuing our recruitment efforts. We're continuing to share why teachers should choose Bridgeport. And I had an opportunity to speak on that during convocation. And I hope that it will be something that we continue to prioritize because it's so critical to have a qualified and certified teacher on the very first day of school. So we're really excited to see a reduction in those numbers as well. Next, I'd like to share that I have engaged the services of a visibility strategist for the district. Her name is Veronica Sofer. She is incredible. She has an award-winning marketing and communication strategist nationwide. She has agreed to help us out while we issue an RFP to find someone to help us with very critical priorities for branding Bridgeport Public Schools. And those include website design, press releases that have to go out so that we can communicate more clearly, not only with the media, but with our families, internal communications with our staff, our teams, our teachers, especially when we have critical things happening in the district. How do we do that more effectively, more seamlessly? External communication strategy for how we will not only message our vision, message our values, our beliefs, but message the great things that are happening in Bridgeport. I want to see published and in public the very amazing talents that our students have in this district. And I don't want to see them at Christmas or during spring break or at the end of the year during graduation. I want to see them every single month. And so it's critical that we have someone who is an expert in working on that strategy. Additionally, she's an expert in community engagement. How do we encourage not only our parents, but our community and business partners to engage with us? For those of you who follow me on Facebook, I'm out in the community. And as I go out in the community and I meet with our small business people, I am taking selfies with them, talking to them about our priorities and encouraging them to re-engage with our school district. And I'm going to continue to do that in my tenure as superintendent in Bridgeport. Also, some of the other critical pieces that we need are internal branding, marketing, and communication sustainability. We need to have someone in-house who can do this work once her consulting tenure is done. And so she's going to be training one of our own to do that work so that we don't have to continue to re-engage communication strategists every time we want to share information with the public, every time that we have a new initiative, every time that we are sharing information with the media. We want to make sure that we have an expert in-house. So that's really critical. Additionally, I want to make sure that we have an improved media response. There's nothing worse than when something happens in our community and the media cannot get information from us, especially if it's something that impacts our students, impacts our schools, our staff. It's really critical that we're able to get that information out accurately. Otherwise, the information that you will receive will not be complete. It may be biased. So for me, it's really critical that any information that is accessed by the media is accurate, complete, and reflects the best values of Bridgeport. Additionally, she'll be supporting us with district collateral design. So that's any type of logos for our campuses, their campus websites, the individual colors for their websites, how to make that visibly appealing, how to make it easy for everyone to navigate these pieces. When you go to the website, you should not have to engage in a scavenger hunt to find the information that you need. And so I want to make sure that anyone who visits our website is able to quickly and easily access information that they need. And if they're not able to do that, that they're able to quickly access the individuals that they can call to help them in real time. And finally, ensuring that we have fantastic program and personnel recruitment branding that helps us to not only engage quality certified individuals to come to work with us, but to retain them in our district and to have them encourage their friends who are also seeking employment to come to us. And finally, but not the last of these, crisis response. It is really important for us to be able to get information out quickly when things happen in the district in a way that is accurate, that is not rumored, that is not hearsay, and that it comes directly from us. And I want to be able to do that seamlessly and effectively, directly with our community, our parents, and all of the wonderful over 3,000 employees in the district. I heard a question earlier regarding COVID-19 and the resurgence. We've actually already had a team meeting with our district nurse, with Mr. Garcia, and also with our director of HR. We assessed our PPE and our readiness. Should we have to take steps to move in a different direction? And so we played out several scenarios. We're going to include Chief Porter in the conversation and ensure that we are prepared. So the conversation has already begun. We've been assessing those expiration dates on PPE that Mr. Benahan mentioned to make sure that we have what we need. So I want you to know that we are prepared. We are prepared should we have a resurgence of the COVID-19 virus or any other virus for that matter in our community. We're prepared. So those are the pieces that we need someone for branding and marketing and communications. I ensured that that contract did not exceed the amount that I'm allowed to actually sign a contract for by the board. And I did so also after securing several quotes as was requested previously. So I'm making sure that as I am learning what is expected of me, that I am addressing those pieces and that I'm being very intentional and very methodical in ensuring that that information is accurate, is complete, and that there's no question about how we're spending district dollars, and there's no question about the integrity of this superintendent. The next piece that I really want to make sure that we focus on is our district and campus web pages. I want to ensure that there is alignment, that there is a standardization in how we present information to the public and how they're able to access information about their schools, whether it's their teacher syllabus, whether it's school hours, whether it's how to get a transcript. I want that to be a standardized process that's aligned, that's user-friendly, and that is automated for our community. We are in the 21st century, so it should not be difficult for us to do that. And that's part of what our visualization strategist is going to help us to do. And that aesthetically pleasing visual when you enter a website really determines whether or not you continue to engage in accessing information from that source or not. We know when we start clicking online and something looks too busy or looks unappealing, we're going to close that page and move on to the next one. I don't want people to close the page when they come to Bridgeport Public Schools. I want them to look deeper. I want them to be interested, to be engaged, and to be very interested in having their students come to our schools, because we have phenomenal programs and we can compete with the best of them. And I included for you an aerial photo of our beautiful future site of Bassick High School. We were there live on the football field today, talking with students and parents. And we're going to continue to engage in the process of having students lend their voice to what should be included in the new Bassick High School. Both those students that are graduating and those students that are going to be freshmen, actually juniors, entering juniors in 2025 and incoming freshmen. So we talked to the freshmen about what their experience is going to be. And I want to make sure that they know that we are prioritizing their needs, their thoughts, and especially their feelings. Their feelings are really important during adolescence, and that social emotional learning piece is what we heard today, that they really critically need. The next piece, I wanted to provide a staffing update. When I arrived, one of the things that I did as soon as I was named, and actually prior, I took a really deep dive into how our organization was structured and how staffing was being used in areas where we could be more efficient. And I determined very quickly that we definitely needed to align the social emotional piece of the services that we deliver to kids. We have a lot of staff, but we don't necessarily have alignment. And so I am proposing not only a new deputy superintendent, because that position is currently vacant, but also an assistant superintendent for social emotional learning, comprehensive health, and student affairs. All of the different branches, from our nurses to our counselors, our social workers, to all of our attendance specialists who go out and knock on doors to ensure that our students are attending on time and regularly, are going to be under one umbrella. We're going to case manage and provide support for all of our students directly under one umbrella. I don't want a single kid to fall through the cracks. They told me very clearly today what they need and what they want and how they feel about it. This position is critical to ensuring that we make that happen. That position is currently posted on AppleTrack. It is not costing us anything to post that position on AppleTrack. The deputy superintendent position, we looked at several different firms. We looked at Youngity and Associates. We looked at the firm that hired me. And we also looked at our local Connecticut Education Service Center, and we chose to go with them. The other two firms were charging $20,000 or $16,000 to conduct the search. Our local Connecticut firm is charging us $3,500. And so we are expecting that they're going to help us to find an amazing deputy superintendent. My recommendation in the interim is that we, as we wait for that process to happen, is to have a qualified retired superintendent to support us in that interim position, because that position is critical to the work that we're doing. It's critical to my beginning journey here in Bridgeport and my ability to support all of the different departments that I support. And finally, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Central Magnet. We've hired a permanent director for that position. It is currently filled. It's no longer interim. We also have currently an interim director of adult education. Those interviews will be held this week in order to fill it. And we have now someone who has moved and transitioned into the director of athletics, health, physical education, and juvenile detention. And you're probably asking, why athletics, health, physical education and juvenile detention, because our students that often end up in juvenile detention oftentimes don't feel they have something going on at school that is motivational and engaging for them. I want that person to work with our students in juvenile detention, get them engaged in sports, get them engaged in doing something productive, and hopefully reduce the recidivism that we see with juvenile detention. So we're trying something new. We're trying something new. And also, we have secured an administrator on assignment to support our SOAR program at Dunbar Elementary. I am very, very determined that we're going to turn around Dunbar Elementary, that we're going to get it off of the commissioner's list, that it's going to be a highly performing school. It's a beautiful facility. And to do that, we have to ensure that we're supporting them appropriately. Additionally, I also assigned administrative support, an additional administrator to support Wilbur-Cross Elementary. We're going to stop seeing Wilbur-Cross on the news. And to do that, we're going to give them the support that they need. So these are some of the changes that I've made with staffing in order to address the needs that I know are very critical, that are probably at the top of everybody's minds, and that are constantly making the news pages. I want to make sure that if we are making the news pages, it's because of the amazing programs, the transformation of our kids that go from struggling to being successful, and our parents who are really satisfied with the product and the services that we provide them here in our district. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Levy, for sharing your report. What I will do is I will go around the table and ask each board, you can just take a moment and gather your thoughts and questions. We'll go around the table and you're able to ask your questions to Dr. Levy. And then I'll do it one more time and that will end the questions, because I want to make sure that we have quite a few items on our agenda and I want to make sure we get out in a decent time. All right, so if you are ready, I'll start with Ms. Casimir. Do you have any questions or comments for Superintendent Dr. Levy David? Your mic is in front of your name tag, sorry. No, that's not a mic. Yep, there you go. Is there, oh, that's a different one? Yeah. We got it.
Thank you, Dr. Levy David, for that report. I personally am excited about you being here. My first question is about the branding, marketing, and communications person, Veronica Sofer. So I just want to understand, she is here temporarily until we get somebody that's already working for the district to be able to do her job.
Getting used to the technology myself. She will be here with us for a term of 90 days, helping us to stand up a lot of the work that I mentioned while we conduct an RFP search and see if we can find someone who can deliver the same services that she is providing. Like I said before, she is one of the best. She's a nationally award-winning strategist. And if I was going to get somebody in here temporarily, with the budget that I'm allowed to spend, I wanted to make sure that I got the very best. And you're going to be very impressed with Ms. Sofer when you meet her. She is an incredible communicator and strategist, and I'm just really excited that we have the ability to have someone of that caliber here.
Thank you. Two more questions. The interim director of adult education, can you tell us a little bit more about that person? Just a little bit more.
Well, that person is someone who is not new to the district. Is someone that has already been in our district, knows our district, has been with us for many, many years, and is just transitioning into that position. That is a position where they have a passion to serve adult educators. That person has applied for the position to be vetted as the permanent person for the position. So when we conduct interviews, that individual will also be vetted for that position.
And that person is a teacher or has teaching credentials or?
Yes, that person, well, I don't want to speak out of turn. Ms. Altradiction, can you help me out with that one?
Ma'am, please come to the mic. I think it should still be on.
Yes, it is. So the interim director of adult education actually has prior experience as a director of adult education from a previous district. So she has experience, and she's been with our district for, I want to say maybe going on a year or 2 years now, I believe.
That's perfect. Thank you. And my last question, I just wanted to ask about the assistant superintendent for social emotional learning. I was wondering, would the juvenile detention be better placed under that person? And the only reason why I'm asking is because when I have a criminal justice undergrad, right? So when I was in school, I remember my professor talking about like the two criteria for kids who enter into the juvenile justice system. One of them is inconsistent discipline. So the child does something one day and the parent disciplines them one way, and then the child does the same thing the next day, the parent disciplines them a different way, and then it's different every day. And the second one was unresolved family conflicts. So I'm not talking to the aunt or the sister in the family for 12 years, and I start talking to them again and then not talking to them again for 2 years. So that's my only question is, what are your feelings about having the juvenile justice leaders under the assistant superintendent for social emotional learning? I'm just wanted to know what your thoughts on that is.
The question, you're incredibly perceptive. The athletic director is going to be filling that role temporarily until we are able to identify the assistant superintendent. The student affairs part of the job description encompasses juvenile detention. So it's going to be all under one umbrella: our social emotional learning, our counseling, our social work, our health, and also our student discipline, and how we work to ensure that we have restoration for those students and that we are able to reduce the recidivism that we see in juvenile detention. So I had to place that service under someone that I knew could do some work to encourage our babies until we're able to identify that position. You're welcome.
Mr. Gillen.
Good evening, and thank you again for the wonderful presentation, Dr. Levy-David. A few questions. Question number one regarding the marketing of strategy. I know it's for 90 days, it's temporary. What are some of the goals you would like Ms. Veronica to achieve within the 90 days?
Within 90 days, I would like Ms. Veronica to begin engaging us in a strategy, first of all, for internal and external communications. That's my priority. How do we communicate better with our community? How do we ensure that those communications are prompt, they're timely and relevant, and that they're not so overwhelming that people don't read them? I think sometimes we include too much information, and when someone has already worked a full day and we send something that's 2 pages long, it may not be the best way to communicate with our parents. And so I want her to really address, how do we create very simple templates to communicate that all of our principals can use, that all of our teachers can use, and align communications throughout our district, so that when parents receive communication from one professional, it's not radically different from what they would receive from another, if that makes sense. So that's one of them. The other is to begin training our internal person on how to begin taking on those responsibilities, so that that knowledge that she is bringing is not lost, and that we have someone internally who can step into that role, whether we continue to have finishing the contract with her or with another vendor, so that we have an individual who can continue to work on those internal and external communications. And also, I would like for her to really support us with the website design and the crisis response piece, because for me, it's really important that we're ready should we have a crisis. And as you know, a crisis will happen exactly when we're not ready for it. So I want to make sure that we're ready for that, and that we're also ready to have a better way to address the visual communication that we have with our customers in the district.
Thank you. A follow-up question regarding the training. would 90 days be enough time to train someone internally? So, I guess, have we decided who the internal individual will be? Does this internal individual have experience in this area already? And those are the top questions that I have regarding the internal.
Yes, I won't share that person's name in an open session, but that person has been identified, and that person is currently working with me already. And the goal is to begin the process of building their capacity and building their ability to identify other areas where they can seek that information and knowledge to build their capacity and maintain our systems. And so it may not be enough time to finish, but it certainly would be a great place to start to put them on that journey and on that road.
Now, I know it's a 90-day term. Will the board be getting updates? What's the cadence of that updates? Every 30 days? Will we just get a report at the end of the 90 days? Where we are at the end of the journey? How do you plan on sharing that information with us?
I plan to make a report monthly on our progress as we work with Ms. Sofer, and also as we go through the process of the RFP and identifying a strategist that will work with us long term. My goal is to have someone who can work with us for the entire calendar year and actually have an entire arc of learning throughout the district for all of our different leaders in the district, and that this will be sustainable work, that it won't be something that once the consultant leaves, it's lost.
As my last question on this topic will be, how are we grading the outcomes? Have you thought about those conversations started yet in terms of data collection? Are we looking into surveys from parents, families, students, staff? What are your plans?
That is a great question. And yes, we do want to collect data from our parents, from our students, and from our staff about the different pieces that we roll out as they are rolled out, and to get feedback regarding the usability, the ease of use for those pieces, and whether or not they're actually improving the experience or not. So those are pieces that we are going to survey and evaluate with focus groups, not with the entire district.
Thank you for that. I'm going to just make a U-turn and ask a question regarding your hiring strategy. What are some of the hiring strategies? I think the numbers look pretty, good in terms of last year compared to this year regarding our vacancies for our teachers. So thank you for that. And thanks for all the team members and HR who've been working to ensure that we're not in the worst position. But what are some hiring strategies that you are looking into in order to recruit more team members, in order to retain more team members?
Well, I'm very busy already partnering with our local universities, and I have a vast network with other universities around the country, and also with other organizations around the country whose work it is to recruit teachers. The issue that we're running into is that we're not graduating enough teachers in order to serve the entire state of Connecticut. So when we look especially at teachers that are multilingual, if we were to take every multilingual teacher that's certified in the state, we would still not have enough to meet the needs of Bridgeport Public Schools. So that is something that I'm working with very, very aggressively with our universities in order to increase the way that we're recruiting and incentivizing individuals to actually pursue multilingual as part of their learning strategy, so that we can serve the needs of our very unique population. Not every population is this diverse. We have approximately 47 languages spoken, and we have newcomers from pre-K all the way through 12. And so for us, and this is something that our students brought up at BASIC, our freshmen said that they would really appreciate it if we had teachers who could support them with multilingual needs until they graduate. Not just until middle school, but until they graduate. And that was a really specific ask that they made of me today. So that is now something that I'm going to take out there into my network, and also the universities that I'm partnering with, in order to ensure that we can have individuals that are prepared at the secondary level to work and actually support our students who are multilingual, and also provide professional development for our current staff on how we support students who are second language learners with our instruction, because there are very specific, and I could name a dozen strategies that are available to support students that are multilingual learners. It exists. It is not something that we're creating from scratch. We just have to make sure we're providing the professional development, that we're supporting our teachers in that process, and that we're monitoring and providing feedback as they grow in that process as well.
Thank you. And I think that's all I have. And I do look forward into the breakdown with the regarding the magnet enrollment in our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Camela, for your report. I see every question we ask you, you have a full answer, and that's very important. And I like that. Gracias por tu gran trabajo, de verdad. Me siento muy orgulloso. Muchas gracias. I'm very proud. Thank you for your report. But I'm going to tell you to let you know, please remind when it's about BASIC. Everybody know I love all my schools, but when it's about BASIC, it's my baby. Be there as a former PTSO president for 4 years and deal with so many thousand parents. I would like to be involved, be there, because I know parents ask me and they keep asking me what's going on with BASIC, what is information. I know this has happened in the last minute, but the next time I would like to be part, at BASIC High School. I love my staff, the principal, Dr. Viola. I interviewed Dr. Viola to be there. He's amazing. He changed that BASIC High School from here to the moon. And I was a witness for that. But I appreciate that, all your information today about BASIC. But I'm concerned about the two positions you have, and I know they're very important. And I emailed that asking that question, that if we don't have no staff, they're certified to be taking that two position. I'm talking about, like, saving money. I know we can save money there. We can save money maybe in the benefit. So do we have staff that can be apply for this two position, not be going out,
Thank you so much for the question, and I appreciate your continued support and guidance. I can tell you that, unfortunately, we do not. These positions are positions that require someone that has central office experience, and that not only has central office experience, but also campus supervision experience. It is something that builds over time and is incremental. I want to make sure that we are hiring the very best, highly qualified, experienced staff to take on these very important roles. We don't want to set up someone for failure who doesn't necessarily have the experience to do work at this level, this intensity, and with the level of responsibility and number of staff that they're going to be supervising. And so for me, it's really important that we find someone that really checks all of those boxes. Do we have that internally at this time? No, we don't. And if they, if they are available, they should identify themselves and apply so that they can be vetted. So that's my most important piece whenever I post a position, ensuring that if we have the opportunity to promote from within, we do that. But if we don't, that the person that we recruit is incredibly qualified, overqualified even, for the position, so that we can ensure that it's not someone that is growing into this position and learning it from scratch. Our needs are too great, and we really need people that are experienced and can hit the ground running.
Thank you. And also going back, thank you for information. Now you clarified, what I want to hear. And also about the BASIC, I know before we went to vacation, we have a committee. And I came one day, let me know. I want to sit down with you, bring you to the committee, give you the minutes, give you the update, because that committee will involve parents, students, community leaders, principal, and board member. So I would like to keep going, so you can. I'll give you an update about how far we go about the BASIC High School. But nothing more to say. Thank you for everything. So far I'm very proud. I hope we can keep doing like that. I know nothing is perfect. Things going up and down because we are not perfect, only God. But at least when I always say, with good communication, we have a great successful. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sokolovic.
Good evening. Great presentation. As always, you'll become familiar with my questions. They usually revolve around policy and money. The first question I have is about the pre-K slots. I see that we've improved somewhat. I can't recall the numbers, like 26, but my main concern is how many empty slots do we still have for pre-K?
I don't have that information for you at this time, but I can certainly follow up tomorrow with that information.
Yes, please. Thank you. And also, you're aware of the new kindergarten cutoff age, I'm sure, and that's going to probably cause a surge in pre-K for next year. Going to be taking any steps to prepare for that?
We have just begun that conversation. It's definitely something that we're going to study deeper so that we can be prepared. And we want to really look, I'm looking right now at a demographic study that was done prior to BASIC being constructed, just to look at those numbers to see what the projection is for students coming into kinder so that we can be better prepared.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I'm going to refer some of that to myself on finances. Get it closer. The branding. I believe we have an RFP out already. If I'm not mistaken, didn't an RFP come out from the branding committee for?
It did. I believe she has sent it back out again.
Oh, it's gone back out again. And those are still, those were grant dollars, correct?
The last I checked, Ms. Siegel said she would be using ESSER dollars too. I'm not sure if that's still the same.
I will have to follow back up with her.
It sounds right. And I'm just concerned about the operating budget because that's where our deficit usually resides. Okay. RFP. Okay. And now the magnet schools. Was an increase of 122, if I'm not mistaken.
122, you're right. No, wait, 66.
66.
66 students.
Just, do we know if they're in our district or out of district? Because as you may or may not know, that one out of district student is worth 3 of our students. So if we get them, we got to maintain that balance. Do you know if we're currently in balance, out of balance? It kind of fluctuates in and out.
I requested an overall report. I'm going to provide the board with a breakdown of the in-district versus out-of-district. But I can tell you that that's part of that marketing and branding strategy to recruit more students to come to our magnet programs. I think that a lot of times we take for granted that people know what we offer and exactly how that's going to impact their kids. And I want to make sure that we're providing parents with accurate information, up-to-date information, and that they're able to see students working and being successful in real time, because that's the most powerful recruitment tool that we can have for our magnet programs for any student who doesn't reside in Bridgeport.
Right. Absolutely agree. My son is a student in Fairchild. They definitely need some more recruitment efforts, especially in the suburbs, especially the way the funding formula is currently set up. Speaking of funding, I've got one additional question. It probably can't be answered on the fly, but we operate at a loss for our magnet schools, and each student is kind of subsidized through the operating budget. And that increase, I would like to know the impact on the budget. I think Ms. Siegel could get that at a future time.
And I believe it's going to be part of Ms. Siegel's report that she will be providing to the board in her financial report. We have talked about it. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it's one of my projects that I hope to be able to turn around very quickly in this district.
Awesome, thank you. And final points are on staffing levels. It seems we're adding a larger layer of administration. Not that the jobs aren't necessary, all jobs are necessary. But in the last round of budget cuts, I hate to talk about money, but in the last round of budget cuts, central office is the first place that's usually looked upon for staffing reductions. And I'm kind of concerned that we might be building up too much that we might have to just yank away later, unfortunately. And also I noticed that the director of literacy and the director of mathematics was not up there. It was on the sheet we got at personnel. Are we still looking for literacy and mathematics?
Those positions have been posted. Interviews are actually going to happen this week for both positions. We did post for a director. Thank you for reminding me. A director of literacy and a director of mathematics. One of the things that happens when there's financial stress is that you're right. There are layoffs at the central office level, but the layoffs have been to the point where we no longer have a curriculum and instruction department in the district. And it's impossible for us to do the work of moving our students forward without having curriculum and instruction support staff in the district. So we're going to have to get creative. I'm going to think positive because I'm always an optimist that we will have the money and the funding in order to be able to support a district, because we need a whole lot more. We need coaches, we need interventionists. There are a lot of positions that we need to be able to staff, but we are beginning by having people that can help us to build it out.
And at that, an order of magnitude, the additional positions of approximately in dollar amount?
That would be a Marlene Siegel question. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Thank you for that wonderful, enlightening presentation. I believe my 2 years on the board, I've never seen anything like that. And I'm very proud of my vote June 12th. I just have one board member already asked the question I was going to ask regarding the magnet schools, and we'll get more information on that. I just have a bit of a follow-up question that can also go back to the chair. I know earlier this year we executed an RFP for a crisis management firm. And so with Miss Veronica, because I forgot her last name already, and the new potential internal position, there's no need for this RFP, just as a basic understanding for the public, because they'll go back in news articles and say, well, what happened to the RFP?
I'm actually going to begin the process of working with Chief Porter, with our fire chief, and with our local crisis management team prior to determining if we actually need to go forward with that RFP for crisis management.
Thank you for your guidance. No further questions.
Ms. Allen, do you have any questions? No worries. Thank you. Mr. Traber?
Colleagues have asked.
Please use your mic, sir.
I just have a couple. Most of my colleagues have asked all the questions that need to be. Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Levy-David. The initial question I wanted to ask, and I think it was clarified with Mr. Sokolovic, but I didn't hear your answer. The 66 magnet school positions in or out of district, I didn't hear what the answer was.
The answer was that I'm going to provide a breakdown of where the students actually are for those that are in district and those that are out of district for the board later this week.
Okay. And then I just wanted to make sure I understood your presentation. You did not include Central Magnet, you said, but this also does not include Park City, High Horizon, or Multicultural either, right?
I believe it actually did include all of those campuses. I can double check with my data analyst. It did? Okay, so it did. It included all of them.
Not just inter-district magnets, this was also those.
I included everyone.
Okay.
Central was the only one that I did not include.
So okay, thank you. And then how much are we paying Ms. Sofer?
Our contract with Ms. Sofer, great question. I believe it's $22,000. I will double check and I'll get that number back to you. But it's under $25,000.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Traver. Ms. Perez?
Thank you for that presentation. Most of my questions were already answered. So I just want to comment that I really appreciate the addition of the assistant superintendent for SEL and health, especially post-COVID with rising cases of anxiety, depression with students. My question, I do have a question, I guess. The question is, so you said there's nobody in the district who is qualified for that position. Is there a plan to do some trainings for current administrators so that if these positions open down the line, we have people internally that can be promoted to those positions?
Thank you so much for the question, Ms. Perez. There is a plan to have amazing professional development for our current leaders so that they can begin to prepare if they want to promote within the district. My favorite way to hire is to hire from within. I like to have individuals that have the history, who are local, who know our kids, and who understand the culture of our community, the many cultures in our community. However, sometimes it's very difficult to arrive and have that, especially when wages are an issue. And so in order to recruit great talent that can come in and actually begin to also train our staff, I'm having to look externally to find someone who has all of those qualities.
And then the follow-up is, I think you said it's for the deputy that we're using CES, but are you using that for the assistant superintendent as well?
We are just posting the assistant superintendent on Apple Track. We're going to see what kind of applicants we get first before contracting out that search as well.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I don't have any. I believe all of my questions have been answered already, but I'll just ask again, are there any further questions before we move on to agenda items? Yes.
I think is a great idea, again, just for the health and PE and juvenile detention. I think just looking at it from a creative standpoint and trying to get ahead of the curve, commend you for that. Having a strategic and purposeful plan for it. That's different. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Levy-David, for sharing your report. Just a request of mine, if you can, I know you sent a presentation out via email to board members. If you can include this presentation in the portal for board members. And once you have any updates, please update it, but just for their review. Thank you. There is no old business to transact at this moment, so we'll move on to our first agenda item for new business. Oh, hi, Ms. Siegel.
Hi.
Yes. The first item is discussion and possible action to extend St. Peter's lease for 1 year for Classical Studies Magnet Academy. I believe Ms. Siegel will be presenting on this item?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Siegel, you have the floor.
Thank you and good evening to everyone. I have put on the screen the addendum to the lease agreement for St. Peter's Church, which is the location of the Classical Studies Magnet Annex. This is an addendum to the lease agreement in order to extend the lease for an additional year from July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2024. The agreement is for 1 year only because we want to be in a strong position to negotiate a second year, which we expect we will need starting July 1 of 2024. For the extension agreement, we have negotiated stable rates, and I have superimposed on the agreement the history of the monthly rent. And you can see that starting in 2017-18, the rent was $4,800 per month. It remained stable for 3 years, according to the original agreement. In a subsequent 3-year agreement, the monthly rent rose to $5,200 a month in 2021, and then to $5,423.60 in 21-22, and in 22-23 last year to $5,786.98. We asked the Archdiocese to keep the rate stable for 23-24, and I'm very pleased to report that they agreed, and we're very thankful for the stabilization in the rate. Therefore, the average increase over the last 3 years, including 23-24, would be 3.67%, and the average increase over the last 6 years would be 3.22%. This agreement was presented in committee, and we're asking for board approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. At this moment, I'll open up the floor for questions. As Ms. Siegel mentioned, this was presented in committee for any board members to attend. But what I will do is acknowledge any board members who did not attend committee that have any questions concerning this. So I'll go down the line and you can share your comments and questions. Ms. Casimir, any comments and questions? Mr. Gellin?
Good evening, Ms. Siegel. Were any other locations looked at for different rates?
A Classical Studies Annex has been located at St. Peter's for the last 7 years. The school year has started, so there hasn't been any change in the location. There was not any consideration by the district administration, either last year or recently, for an alternate site.
other magnet locations that uses annex, are the average increase percentage similar, 3.67?
We don't have any other schools operating at a similar site. The adult ed program is currently using St. Michael's on an interim basis until they identify an alternate site. In terms of annual growth in rates, the lease agreement for classical studies had specified that the rate would increase by the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. Nevertheless, I asked that the rate remain stable, and they agreed.
How many students are and attend this location?
It's great. I have to check the exact number, but it's pre-K, K1 and 2. I can check that number in one moment. I'll have that for you in one moment.
Sure. No problem.
So the projected enrollment for the current year, this is a projection, is 154. The enrollment used by the state for funding purposes in all programs is based on October 1st data.
Thank you.
And the grade levels are pre-K, K1 and 2.
Thank you.
Mr. Binahan, any comments or questions?
No question, no comment. No question, no comment this moment.
Thank you. Mr. Sokolovic, any comments or questions?
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Baptiste Perez, any comments or questions?
No.
Ms. Allen, any comments or questions? Mr. Traber, any comments or questions?
No questions or comments.
Ms. Perez, any comments or questions?
No.
All right. Would someone like to make this motion?
I make a motion to extend the St. Peter's lease for 1 year for Classical Studies Magnet Academy as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there was 3 of you guys. I'm going to give it to Ms. Baptiste Perez. Are there any further comments and questions before we go to a vote? Hearing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Siegel.
Thank you.
The next item is discussion and approval of Connecticut educator evaluation flexibilities. This item has not gone through teaching and learning due to the time sensitivity of this, so I added it to this meeting. We definitely need to do this, but I will, if there's anyone from staff that would like to talk a little bit about this before the board. Dr. Jenkins? And your mic should be on.
Yes. Good evening and welcome back. I stand before you today to provide an overview of the Connecticut educator flexibilities. The State Board of Education has approved this school year, I believe it was May 18th, 2023, the opportunity for boards of education and professional development and evaluation committees that consist of teachers and administrators, the opportunity to extend the flexibilities for evaluation for teachers and administrators. The flexibilities emerged as a result of the pandemic. Connecticut was committed to making sure our educators we put in front of our children still had the opportunity to develop and grow even in the midst of the pandemic. So plans that were developed at a district level were suspended, and school districts had the opportunity to adopt the recommended flexibilities from the State Board of Education and the Educator Evaluation Council from the state of Connecticut. For the last 2 years, the Bridgeport Board of Education have adopted the flexibilities. I stand before you today presenting the opportunity to adopt the flexibilities for 1 more year. This adoption would allow us to still provide a structure for supporting teachers and administrators with their growth and development, but it also would afford us the opportunity to begin planning to launch a new educator evaluation plan that would be developed in committee, presented in subcommittee under the guidance of Dr. Levy David, and crafted mutually the Board of Education and the PDAC committee, which stands for Professional Development Evaluation Committee, that consists of teachers and administrators to develop a new plan. The information that I'm sharing with you was provided in your board packet in the memo from the State Board of Education issued by our Commissioner of Education, Charlene Russell Tucker. The flexibilities, even though the word is flexible, doesn't eliminate having a high quality standard for helping educators grow. Teachers create a student learning objective. They identify indicators of how we will support children as we grow and develop. Administrators do the same, except they will have 2 indicators supporting student learning. There are observations for staff that are tenured. There are observations for staff that are non-tenured. Non-tenured or first and second year staff have a minimum, but a minimum doesn't mean that's all, a minimum of 3 observations. Teachers who are tenured have 2. The process allows for a great deal of feedback and support for teachers as well as administrators. Administrator observations include site visits, a minimum of 2 if administrator has been in the district more than 2 years. It includes the review of artifacts, plans that are developed for parent engagement, professional development plans. Those artifacts are reviewed to support administrators' leadership and service to the district. Leaders who are not tenured or new to their position will have a minimum of 3 observations under the flexibilities and a review of a minimum of 2 artifacts. This is just the minimum requirement, but we, of course, visit leaders and support them much more than the minimum requirement outlined in the flexibilities. Additionally, we are looking to move towards giving good feedback and supporting continuous improvement. It's a theme that I've shared with the board previously. One of the examples of continuous improvement as we embark on a new plan, and I had shared this with a colleague today. In the old goal system, we often talk about the outcome and not as much about process. Because we want great outcomes for our children and great outcomes for our staff. But we also have to focus on continuous improvement and process. So the example I shared with a colleague today is if you go to the doctors and you get an A1C test to test your blood sugar, and if it says you're pre-diabetic, many people focus on the number. I'm pre-diabetic. The only way to change that number is to change your habits and engage in continuous improvement, such as exercise, hydration, good sleep, change in diet, managing stress. Those processes will lead to a change in the outcome of the A1C. Often we pair and look at student data or numbers without working on building the capacity of the individuals that serve our children to make those numbers a reality, that achievement a reality. So if you choose to adopt the flexibilities, it would give us an opportunity to still support our educators at a high level and engage in the planning and development of a new educator evaluation plan based on the framework from the state of Connecticut here in Bridgeport Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. At this moment, I'll see if board members have any questions. Ms. Casimir, do you have any questions for Dr. Jenkins?
No, she made it clear. No questions, no comments.
Mr. Gelin, do you have any questions or comments?
Pass.
Mr. Benahan, any questions or
No
comments?
question or comment.
Mr. Sokolovic, any questions or comments?
Yes, too. What's the union buy-in on that plan?
Prior to coming to this meeting, the PDAC committee, which includes representation from the BEA leadership, as well as the BCAS leadership, administrator leadership, agreed to the adoption of the flexibilities pending the approval of the board. I believe one of the vice presidents and members of that committee, Jen Kellerman, was present at the meeting. Will you confirm that I'm accurate in my inference? Okay, I appreciate that.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you. And in the development of the new program that's going to be implemented, they're going to be integral in the process as well?
Say that once more.
While this is a placeholder until we develop a new one, and they will be an integral process. Because you said teachers, and to translate that into union representation, because sometimes teachers are handpicked, they don't push back sometimes.
Most definitely, we will partner with the leaders of our two unions to make a supportive plan, an enriching plan, a reality. We did have a conversation on Friday prior to this meeting, and so I would not bring it forward without that conversation and support from the Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, which consists of union leaders as well as teachers and administrators.
Thank you.
Ms. Baptiste Perez?
No questions.
Ms. Allen, any questions or comments? Mr. Traber, any comments or questions? Ms. Perez? Sorry. Ms. Perez, any comments or questions?
No questions.
I have none either. Thank you for providing this presentation.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gelin, sorry, went to go back. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jenkins. Question, what are we using now for evaluation?
We are currently using the flexibilities last year. They were adopted and approved by the Board of Education last year. So 2020-21, 21-22, and 22-23, we adopted the flexibilities recommended by the State Board of Education. If we didn't adopt the flexibilities, we would have to kind of blow the dust off the plan used prior to the pandemic and implement it. The hope was to continue with the flexibilities so it's familiar and it would allow us the bandwidth and time to develop a new plan.
You conduct PDSAs with to find out where we are. You talk a lot about the process. So we're in the process already now in terms of this, not only utilizing the evaluation, but looking at the outcomes. How do our outcomes look currently? Looking at what we've been implementing over the past couple of years now, and where do you project us going in the next, if we approve this flexibilities now? Where will we be next year?
Well, next year, just to clarify, are you asking in regards to implementing the flexibilities, where will we be with outcomes in regards to students or outcomes in regards to teachers?
Teachers.
Okay. So in regards to teachers, some of the work and I'll speak from the lens of literacy. We're developing teachers' ability to service students' literacy performance, specifically right now in this example, grades K through 6. They're getting professional development. They engage in their own individual development. They are setting goals to improve the delivery of, say, foundational reading skills for children. That is measured through an assessment tool called DIBBLES. And over the last 2 years, we have sustained growth, primarily in subtest. Our hope this year is that we would see more growth in the composite or overall score. That process of plan, do, study, act is an emerging process from our work during the pandemic. Our partnerships with Partners for Educational Leadership, which I spoke about, I believe, last December, as a result of having some flexibilities, engaging initially in like a continuous improvement cycle. During our administrative retreat, the principals had more professional development on continuous improvement cycles. I can speak for literacy that we've been engaging in those continuous improvement cycles, and we probably go through a plan, do, study, act 5 times a year. So that's how we're able to see progress, and when we're stalled, look at the process of instruction to create growth for children.
Thank you. Do you mind sharing the PDSAs maybe as the cycle happens, so as a board we can take a look at it, and not only for literacy but across the board?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no further comments or questions. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the Connecticut evaluation flexibilities.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Baptiste Perez, second by Mr. Traber. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. We look forward to any updates concerning this. The next item is discussion and possible action on entering into a contract agreement with the university school to provide services for special education program and the Expel student program. This item went before committee. And for those that participated in committee, you're aware of it and it's also in your packet. Is there someone presenting on this item tonight? Dr. Levy, do you know if someone's presenting on this? Is it Ms. Siegel? Is it you?
Probably Ms. Siegel.
Ms. Siegel?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead, Ms. Siegel.
So there are 2 agreements with the university school. The first is for special education seats, up to 40 seats. This is a renewal agreement, and the cost factor is $2.2 million. The second agreement with the university school is for an expulsion program. Here again, it is an extension, or I should have renewal agreement. And the cost factor is $450,000.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. I'll open up the floor for comments or questions from board members. Mr. Gellin. Thank you. Mr. Benahan, any questions?
Question or comment?
Mr. Sokolovic, any comments or questions?
Yeah, a couple of just quick comments. That contract council has already signed, so it's not really an approval. It's just a rubber stamp of what happened before. And I'm just really concerned about, I just want to get on record, I'm really concerned that contracts keep coming before us not a reflection upon the current superintendent, but it's been a problem in the past. And this current contract is a 92% escalated price tag from the last contract. And it's something that definitely needs board oversight. That's why the importance of the referral of the calendar, so we don't keep coming into this problem. I'll be voting no for those reasons, but I don't have any problem with the form.
Thank you. Ms. Baptiste Perez, any comments or questions?
I mean, it's been said it's already a valid and executed contract. And so the agenda item tonight, it's to a certain extent a bit asinine, but I suppose if the board wants to bless it, it's already enforced and being used now. So it was discussed in committee that it was a necessity. If we did not enter into this contract, the a la carte price per student would have been way above what we entered into. And then we also would have subjected the district to various different types of liabilities. So it's already been entered into, it's a necessity. And so under someone's wisdom, it was brought as a board item, but I don't see the purpose in it, but it's here.
Ms. Allen? Mr. Traber?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, I guess. My recollection of what we had on the agenda at the committee meeting was the expulsion contract.
Remember, it's two contracts in one.
Yeah, I don't recall the SPED contract. I remember it being discussed, but I don't remember seeing it. I just remember the $450,000 contract being discussed. So the 2.2 was a part of that, you're saying?
I believe so. Ms. Siegel, can you explain a little further?
Yes, certainly. There are two separate agreements. The special ed agreement, as I indicated, is a renewal agreement. It has been in place with the university school for many years. And it is the equivalent of an out-of-district placement. Obviously, it's not out of the geographic area of Bridgeport, it's in Bridgeport, but it's processed as a mandated service for students who will attend a placement at a site other than their own school. There are hundreds of special ed agreements every year for out-of-district placements, and it had been agreed with the board many years ago verbally that special ed agreements would not require board approval. The second separate agreement is for the expulsion program, which also has taken place at the university school for many years.
So what I'm saying then is what we looked at the committee meeting was simply the expulsion agreement because that's what required our board to review. That the special ed agreement, it was not before us because that was a SPED agreement. So it's the expulsion agreement that we're looking at tonight with a $450,000 price tag. And if I recall, that agreement is for 30 slots, or was it 40 slots? Can you tell me, Ms. Siegel, how many slots?
Yes, I believe the expulsion agreement is up to 30.
Okay, and we are anticipating, do we know how many slots a year we are using? In the past year, how many expulsions we had?
I don't know I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Siegel.
Nobody said anything here.
I don't know the exact number, but the number of students at the site will vary weekly or perhaps daily, depending on the length of an expulsion. I believe I was told that we were going to open the school year with 6, but that was a few weeks ago. I do not know the exact number at this time.
Do you recall off the top of your head how much we maxed out at last year? Any given year, any given week?
Oh, I wouldn't have that data. Oh,
Okay.
Dr.
There's a statement of necessity, and yet we never discussed necessity or why. So I was just curious if we knew what the necessity was.
I'll have Dr. Levy respond.
You know-
Levy
Do you
Davis.
know the answer, Doctor? I'm sorry.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I will definitely provide that information later this week as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Traber.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Perez, any comments or questions?
Not at this time.
I'm going to go back to Ms. Casimir because I know you're away from your seat. Any comments or questions on this item? It's totally okay.
No comments, no questions.
All right. I have no comments or questions on this item. Oh, Mr. Gillen, any comments or questions?
Just wanted to reiterate, as far as the data collection go, that we'll be receiving from Dr. Levy David, what specific data will we be getting from you? Are we looking at trends for like the past year? If you can want to elaborate a bit for us so we could know what we're anticipating.
My plan is to research 3-year trend data so that we can at least have some longitudinal data to look at.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that. My last question, I guess now, is if the expulsion, asked from us from the board today, if that's separate from the special ed contract, or is it a one vote, or can we separate the two contracts?
there are two separate agreements.
Two separate agreements.
All right. So yes, Mr. Traber.
But we don't vote on sped agreements.
We don't.
Right, exactly. So
So we
we'll
don't
just
need
focus on.
So there's
the
only
special
one
ed.
vote on
Right.
the expulsion agreement.
Correct.
Because that we do.
Exactly. Okay.
And the data that we are going to get is going to give us an idea of whether,
Use your mic, sir. I don't think
I have it on,
it's on. Okay.
of whether or not, how many expulsions we have at any given time. And so whether this becomes cost effective or in the long run is not cost effective, and we could be referring these children to another site.
Precisely.
Look at that.
Agreed. Okay.
Yes. Dr. Levy, David, go ahead.
Just wanted to address that concern because it is a real concern. And I have entered into preliminary conversations, very preliminary, for the district to develop its own site.
There
But
you go.
that's very preliminary. And of course, that's going to require collaboration with multiple agencies, but we do recognize that it's a great expense. And we want to see how we can make that more cost effective, and if it would be more cost effective for us to have our own site. So I've entered those conversations already, sir.
And I would just say before passing it on, that was one of my concerns. So I'm glad that you did address that. Mr. Sokolovic.
Right, I was just going to make this point because we've had fits and starts of developing an expulsion program of our own and SPED programs of our own, but it could be seen more as of keeping our children closer to home. And also, it could actually be a revenue generator because if the program's a good revenue, if it's a good program, we could market it out to other districts, surrounding districts, because it is expensive to build, and all these districts are using outside contractors, sending kids out of district. Why not get them to send here?
I would agree to that. At this moment, if there are no further comments or questions, would someone like to make the motion? Just a reminder, we are voting on the expel student program part of it. Would someone like to make the motion?
Motion to approve the special ed program of expelled students with the university school.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to amend because we're not approving the special education program. So I move that we strike out special education and keep the remainder of the sentence.
I'll second that, and I apologize.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sokolovic. Is there any comments or questions? All right, so now we'll vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Traber abstains. The ayes have it. Now we'll vote on the amended motion. Go ahead, Mr.
Main motion.
Main motion, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Sokolovic.
Oh, no, you just got to call for a vote on the main.
Would
motion.
someone
As
like to make a motion on it?
No, it's
Oh, okay.
it's already a main motion on the floor. It's just been amended to strike out the special education contract.
Correct. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I'm a no.
I'm sorry, let me redo that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me, no.
Okay, so there's 3 opposals. Mr. Sokolovic opposes, Mr.
Roll
Gunn.
call vote.
Okay. It's been requested for roll call vote. Ms. Casimir,
Yes.
Mr. Gellin,
Nay.
Mr. Lord Jesus, Mr. Benahan,
Yes.
Mr. Sokolovic,
Go with nay.
myself, no. Ms. Baptiste Perez,
Yay.
Ms. Allen, Mr. Traber,
Abstain.
he abstains, and Ms. Perez.
Okay.
So the ayes have it. All right. Thank you, Ms. Siegel.
Thank you.
And the final item is discussion and approval of board members to attend CAPE/CAPS training at the district expense on November 17th through the 18th in Groton, Connecticut. There isn't a formal presentation on this. However, it is vital that board members do attend training to help them as they execute their duties as board members. And that's pretty much all that I have. I did receive information from Ms. Rita. Just a second. Sorry, Ms. Rita, give me 1 second. Or would you like to share on it or? Yep, come, Ms. Rita. She's gonna share on the room and the pricing. Go ahead, Ms. Rita.
So if you were looking at cost factors, the event is from November 17th through the 18th. It is a CAPS convention that is being conducted. The accommodations are specifically at the Mystic Marriott. There are only 3 rooms that I'm able to select for the district on this with the expense of $165 a night, and it's just 1 night. When you are there, there is lunch and dinner provided on Friday, and then there is lunch provided on Saturday at the event. For each board member that attends, the cost is $499.
And I know I spoke to board members to send it before the early bird, but Mr. Traber expressed interest once we decided to add it as agenda item. So we'll have 4 board members attending. I will share their names, Mrs. Casimir, Mr. Traber, Mr. Benahan, and Mr. Sokolovic. Also, Ms. Rita shared with me that you can only cap it at 3. So my suggestion would be 3 rooms, sorry. My suggestion would be Ms. Casimir has her own room, and then the guys can decide who bunks with who. But that's pretty much the item, yes. Oops, did I miss you too? Oh, I'm sorry, and Ms. Perez. So that makes it 5 board members that will be attending.
But I don't plan on staying.
You don't plan on staying, so then it's back to Ms. Casimir will be alone. Any
Okay.
further comments?
So her registration will be something, it's done.
Okay,
Mr. Traber, I will add,
got
and
it.
the others are already set. The accommodations is the only piece that needs to be finalized.
Correct. I will open up the floor for any questions concerning this item. I'll start with Ms. Casimir and go around. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, just so I'm clear. So do I pay for the room and then get reimbursed, or the
So
Board of Ed is gonna pay for
The
it?
goal of this vote is to have the district pay for everything.
Okay,
So
because
that's
I
the
don't
goal
mind
of this.
paying and getting reimbursed.
Totally understand, and that is your right to do if you choose so, but that.
No,
vote-
I don't want to. If the district is gonna pay for it, yeah, let's go ahead and pay for it. Yeah, thank you.
That's the goal of the vote tonight. So whether the board supports it or not. Mr. Gellin, any comments or questions?
Don't have any comments or questions.
Okay, Mr. Benahan, any comments or questions? All right, Mr. Sokola, any?
I got a question. Were the rooms only $165 that you could, 3 rooms only at $165, or is there other rooms available if we want to stay separate and pay the difference?
That's a good question. Ms. Rita?
From the information that CAPE specifically provided, in their registration with the link. When I go into register each one of you, when it had reserved rooms, they have a certain number of block rooms that have been set specifically for this convention.
So in respect to that, could we just maybe book the 3 rooms for people who want, and if somebody could book another room, because I would be willing to pay the difference to free up a room so everybody could have their own space and have the reimbursement of $165 for the standard room rate.
So that's might be a special rate that they specifically have set for CABE or CAPS. Within the cluster of what is there, I can go ahead and handle what is needed. If you're looking to manage your own accommodations, then by all means, please contact the Marriott and handle it accordingly.
And as long as I could get reimbursed for the $165.
All right. All right. Thank you, Ms. Rita. Ms. Baptiste Perez, any comments or questions?
No, I just ask that for those members that attend, probably just share what's learned during the conference with those of us that cannot attend. So that way there's a continuous dialogue amongst all of us, but then also the information is not just with individuals, but shared amongst the group.
Thank you. Ms. Allen, any comments or questions? Thank you. Mr. Traber, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just want to add that I know Ms. Casimir, Mr. Benahan, and Mr. Sokolovic went to another conference that was just CABE. This is CABE and CAPS, and I was persuaded by Mr. Sokolovic that it was worth attending because there's apparently a lack of urbans represented at these conferences, that they're primarily suburban districts, and so it's useful for us to have a presence there. So that's why I changed my mind when he made that point to me, and I think it will be useful to us.
Thank you. Ms. Perez, any comments or questions?
None at this time.
All right, would someone like to make the motion? Oh, anyone?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Mr. Gellin.
Will it be too late for any additional board members to jump in the fray?
I did not set a limit, but I know there was registration and there's going to be a difference in it price-wise. So the question was, Ms. Rita, I'm going to turn her because she did registration. Is there any openings? Is that was your question for anyone who else would like to attend? So if you're interested.
One more question. Rita, what is the difference between the early bird registration price and the one after?
It's too late.
Oh, that's it. No, that's not the question. What I'm asking is there a difference between the early bird registration, which has already passed, and somebody who wants to go today or next week? Is there, what's the price difference? Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
When's the last day to register? No problem.
If we have any more questions, we go to Rita, right? We got any more questions about it or any clarifications? We just talk to you? Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I guess my only a comment is that maybe we can go forward with this motion for those members that would like to, but maybe leave some flexibility in case additional members want to go, but leave it to us, or also follow up with Rita, but we get our CABE notifications, and then it's just approval for the board in general to go. And then that can be the motion tonight, and then we as individual members, if we decide we want to go, we can follow up with Rita. So that way there's clarification in case there's a change of heart for any member that may want to attend.
All right. Any further questions? Mr. Sokolovic.
I think I make a motion to, I move that I move that the board allow reimbursements and or direct booking for the conference, for the conference, the CABE conference to take place in, was it November? and book whatever rooms are available. Okay, wait, never mind. I got to think on it another second. The intention of it is to get 3 rooms booked and $165 reimbursement for any additional rooms. So can somebody clean that up?
Mr. Traber.
Move that the board approve paying for directly or through reimbursement board members to attend the Cape Caps conference on November 17th. Period.
Is there a second?
Second.
Give it to Ms. Casimir. Yep, Ms. Rita. Yes, please come.
If you're looking to book your rooms independently, that's one thing. If you're looking to register, I specifically need to do that. If you're going to come only on a Friday, I need to know that. If you're intent that you're there for the entire Friday and Saturday, I need to know that. You're not able to go in and book yourselves if you're going to attend that. So I thought that there was something in what you were saying, and I was like,
No,
okay,
we're just speaking in the hotel.
just only in regards to accommodations?
Correct.
Okay,
Got it.
all right.
Please see, at the end of the day, please see Ms. Rita with everything. We got you, Ms. Rita. All right, so the motion is on the floor. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. Board members, please reach out to Ms. Rita for any further updates, and please come back and tell us what you learned so that we can share information. The last part is a
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Benahan, seconded by Ms. Cashmere. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. Board members, have a good night. Also, Mr. Benahan is asking board members to come together with the superintendent and take our first picture of the year. If you're interested, follow Mr. Benahan.
Who's asking what? Who does? Oh.